Hello my dear students, welcome to CMI's online classes. In today's class, in this video, for the students of Standard 6, we'll start the new chapter from our English grammar, that is chapter 18, Active and Passive Voice. That means in this video, in this chapter, we are going to understand first what is voice, what are the kinds of voice. That means especially we are learning about active and passive voice. Okay students, so at first we will understand what is voice. So we will see the definition of voice now. So the definition of voice is written here. What is voice? Voice in grammar is the form of a verb indicating the relation between the participants in a narrated event. Subject, object and the event itself. So voice, according to grammar, voice क्या है? वो एक क्रिया का रूप है, form of a verb, जो काम हम व्यक्त करते हैं. That work takes place in different time of actions. We are talking about the time of actions. So the actions that take place in sentences. So the relation of that particular action with the participants. Participants means the subject that does action in the sentence and the object that receives the action done by the subject. So the relation of the form of verbs with the subject and object in a sentence is voice, is expressed by voice. Okay, and the event itself and how event is performed itself, it is also expressed by voice, expressed through voice in grammar. Okay, so common distinctions of voice found in languages are those of active and passive voice. So what is voice? We have understood here. Voice is the expression of actions that take place in sentences. So how the same actions are expressed differently, that is said by voice. That is expressed by voice depending upon the time of actions that particular action takes place, and also indicating the relation between the participants. Participants, there are always two participants of the actions. One is the subject that does the action and another is the object, though the object does not perform actions but it receives the action performed by the subject. Okay, so common distinctions of voice found in languages are those of active and passive voice. So as I told you that voice is the expression of events. Events means actions that take place in sentences. Okay, so voice expresses the actions. Okay, but the action can be expressed separately. How we express the actions that take place in sentences differently, it can be, or the actions can be expressed separately in voice according to active and passive voice. Now active and passive voice are the kinds of voice. There are two types of voice. One is active and another is passive voice. Now what is active and what is passive voice, that we have to understand in this video. Okay, so further we have to understand the definition of voice. It tells us the actions. So it stands for voice. That means voice tells us the actions that take place in sentences. So voice हमें क्या बताते हैं? जो काम सेंटेंस पे होता है उस काम के बारे में हमें बताते हैं. So how does it tell us about the actions that take place in sentences? The actions that take place in sentences are done by the subject or something is done to the subjects. So in two ways we express the same actions. One is in active voice, another is in passive voice. Okay, so how? by saying that the subject, if the subject performs the action or something is done to the subject. या तो we already know that subjects are the performers of the actions. Okay, so if the subjects are the performers of the actions, okay, directly, then the sentences written is in active voice. But if something is done to the subject while expressing the action in the different way, that is passive voice. We have different rules. We have so many rules to follow while changing sentences into passive voice from the active voice. Okay, so all these rules we are going to understand in this video. Okay, so before that, let us know what are the types of voice and what is the definition of each voice with example. Okay, now see here, the voice is of two types. There are two types of voice. That means in two voices we can express the same actions, express the same action. Like one in active voice, one is active voice, another is passive voice. So let us see what is active voice. Active voice. A sentence is said to be in active voice if the subject is in the sentence performs the action directly. So how? For example, Sasi played the guitar at the party. He performed a dance on his friend's birthday celebration. So let us see. If you read this sentence, Sasi played the guitar. What is the action done here? Played. What is the verb here? Played. So who has played the guitar? Sasi. So what is Sasi here? Sasi is the subject here. Sasi is the noun which is used as the subject here. So here the action of playing guitar is done directly by the subject Sasi. So here, if the sentence expresses the action which is directly done by the subject, then it is the sentence written in active voice. Okay, like in another sentence we have, he performed a dance on his friend's birthday celebration. Who performed the dance? He. So he is the subject here. So the subject is performing the action directly here in this sentence. Action of performing a dance. So here the sentence is in active voice. Okay. If the subject in a sentence perform the action directly, then that sentence is in active voice. Okay. Now let us see what is passive voice. Passive voice. A sentence is said to be in passive voice if the subject in the sentence is acted upon to the action performed in the sentence, or something is done to the subject, for example. So, if after reading the sentences and the actions that are performed in sentences, if we come to know that the action, that something is done to the performer of the action, then the sentence is said to be in a passive voice, in passive voice. Like, the guitar was played by Sasi at the party. The same sentence which I have written here in active voice, I have changed the same sentence into passive voice. The guitar was played by Sasi at the party. So if you see here, the subject is the guitar, okay, which is object in this sentence, the guitar. She played the guitar. What did she play? The guitar. Sasi is subject here, but the object is the guitar here. Now this object is changed into subject in passive voice. Okay, the guitar was played by Sasi. Who is the performer of the action here? Sasi. But Sasi is used as an object here. Okay. So whenever we are changing the sentences in active voice into passive voice, we have to change the place of subject and object first. The subject in passive voice, active voice, the subject, the nouns used in active voice will be changed into object in passive voice, and the object used in the active voice will change into subject in passive voice. Okay, like here the another example, a dance was performed by him on his friend's birthday party. So the same sentence, he performed a dance. What did he perform? A dance. So a dance is the object here. Now when I change this active sentence in passive voice, a dance will be changed into ऑब्जेक्ट सब्जेक्ट. सो यहाँ पर अ डांस ऑब्जेक्ट है एक्टिव वॉइस में, लेकिन जब इस सेंटेंस को हम पैसिव वॉइस पे चेंज करेंगे तो अ डांस जो ऑब्जेक्ट है यहाँ पर वो सब्जेक्ट में चेंज होगा. लाइक अ डांस वॉज परफॉर्म्ड. सो हियर अ डांस इज सब्जेक्ट, बट व्हेन यू रीड दिस सेंटेंस, हु इज द परफॉर्मर ऑफ द डांस? हियर हिम. So he is changed into him. He is subject, but when it is changed into object, it will become him. Okay, like she becomes her. Okay, like they becomes them. We becomes us. Like this. So according to rules of grammar, we need to change when the subjects are pronouns. Then accordingly, we need to change it into object. Okay. So now here a dance was performed by him on his birthday party. So a dance is written here as the subject, but here the action is not performed by the subject. Okay, if you read, the action is performed by the object here, which was subject in active voice. Okay. I hope you have understood what is voice, what are the types of voice, what is active voice, and what is passive voice. Now we need to understand these important points, okay, whenever we are changing the sentences in active voice into passive voice. Okay, we have to learn in this video, in this chapter, we have to learn about the rules of changing sentences in active voice into passive voice. तो हम इस वीडियो में ये जानेंगे कि जो sentences active voice में है उसे passive voice में change करते समय हमें किन किन चीजों का ध्यान देना है. Understood? We have to understand at first that only the verbs in transitive forms can be changed into passive voice. Okay. So जो sentences पे अगर verb transitive है, transitive means verbs that have objects in sentences. So जो verbs का object होता है sentences में, उसी sentences को हम passive voice में change करेंगे. Okay, that means intransitive verbs cannot be changed into passive voice. Okay. Now after that, what is the main point to understand? While changing the sentences in active voice into passive voice, the subject is changed into object and the object is changed into the subject in passive voice. तो जब हम sentences जो कि एक्टिव वॉइस में है उसे पैसिव वॉइस में चेंज करेंगे तो उस समय पहले हमें जो एक्टिव वॉइस में जो नाउन्स और प्रोनाउंस सब्जेक्ट की तरह यूज हुआ है उसे पैसिव वॉइस में ऑब्जेक्ट में चेंज करेंगे, और एक्टिव वॉइस में जो नाउन्स और प्रोनाउंस ऑब्जेक्ट की तरह यूज हुआ है उसे हम पैसिव वॉइस में सब्जेक्ट बनाएंगे. ओके, सो आफ्टर दैट व्हाट वी हैव टू डू, प्रीपोजिशन बाय इज पुट बिफोर the object used in the sentence in passive voice. So after changing the subject into object and object into subject in passive voice, so जिस object को हम passive voice में, जिस nouns और pronouns को हम active passive voice में object की तरह use करेंगे, उस object से पहले हम preposition by का इस्तेमाल करेंगे. Okay, we will see these in examples also. And after that what we have to understand is the main words used in the sentences in active voice have to be changed into the past participle form of verbs in the sentences in passive voice. So when we change the sentences in active voice into passive voice, the main words, that the finite verbs, the each sentences in active voice have to be changed into B3 form of the verbs. So जो सेंटेंसेस एक्टिव वॉइस में है और उस सेंटेंस में जो मेन वर्ब्स है उसे जब हम पैसिव वॉइस में चेंज करेंगे तो वो सारे मेन वर्ब्स को हम B3 फॉर्म में चेंज करेंगे, पास्ट पार्टिसिपल फॉर्म ऑफ द वर्ब्स. ओके, दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड. आफ्टर दैट व्हाट वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड, अनदर पॉइंट इज द ग्रुप ऑफ टू बी वर्ब्स हैज टू बी यूज्ड बिफोर द पास्ट पार्टिसिपल फॉर्म ऑफ वर्ब्स इन द सेंटेंसेस इन पैसिव वॉइस. So after changing the main verbs in active voice into B3 form of the verbs in passive voice, before those V3 form of verbs, we have to make use of to be verbs. It depends upon the different tenses. The sentences are written in active voice. It depends upon the different tenses that which to be verbs we have to use depending upon different tenses. Okay, so that we will understand with the structure of sentences in the later part of this video. Okay, and after using to be verbs before the V3 form of the verbs, all main verbs in passive voice are in V3 form. ओके, पैसिव वॉइस में जब हम सेंटेंसेस लिखते हैं तो जितने भी मेन वर्ड्स होता है वो सारा हम V3 फॉर्म में लिखते हैं. ओके, नाउ नेक्स्ट पॉइंट वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड इज इन केस ऑफ सेंटेंसेस विथ मोर देन वन ऑब्जेक्ट, डायरेक्ट एंड इनडायरेक्ट ऑब्जेक्ट्स, take the direct object as the subject in passive voice. So it does not mean that transitive verbs only have one object. The transitive verbs may have more than one object. Okay, we have already known about the objects that the sentences may have more than one object. In that case, we have to understand that there are direct and indirect object. So direct objects are found identified when we keep the question what after the verbs. So when we find the direct object, we have to change that direct object into subject in passive voice. Okay, so now let us understand with the help of this example. Active voice, he attends the meeting regularly. So this is in simple present tense. So now what is the subject here? He. What is the object here? The meetings. So he attends the meeting regularly. So he singular है, so attends B5 है, simple present tense में है. So the object क्या है? The meetings है. So now when we change this sentence in active voice into passive voice, we have to first change the place of object into subject and subject into object. Like here, the meetings are attended regularly by him. Now see here, the meetings ये passive voice में है. Okay, जो कि यहाँ पर एक्टिव वॉइस में क्या था? ऑब्जेक्ट था, तो यहाँ पर हमने ऑब्जेक्ट को सब्जेक्ट बना दिया. द मीटिंग्स आर अटेंडेड बाय हिम. सो नाउ यहाँ पर ही ऑब्जेक्ट है, ये सब्जेक्ट है. एक्टिव वॉइस में ही सब्जेक्ट है, तो इसे हमने पैसिव वॉइस में ऑब्जेक्ट बना दिया. ओके, नाउ व्हाट इज द फर्दर रूल्स दैट वी हैव एक्सप्लेन्ड, दैट आई हैव एक्सप्लेन्ड जस्ट बिफोर. सी, after changing subject into object, before the object we have to use the preposition by. Okay, and after that we have to change the main verbs into B3 form of the verb. This is B5 form of the verbs. Now main verbs are changed into B3 form of the verb. Attended is B3 and B2 both, but here it is used as B3. Okay, so B3 main verbs are changed into B3. Okay, so यहाँ पर the meetings plural है. So this is in simple present tense. In simple present tense we use is, am, is, are, am. These three to be verbs are used in passive voice before the B3 form of the verbs in the sentences. Okay, like here, he attends the meetings regularly. The meetings are attended. So here are is used. Are is from the group of to be verbs. So the sentence is in simple present tense. So before the V3 form of the verbs in passive voice in present tense, in simple present tense, we have to use either is, am or are. Okay, like are is used because the sentence is plural. If the sentence would be like this, he attends the meeting. अगर यहाँ पर meetings के जगह meeting होता तो यहाँ पर the meeting is होता. The meeting is attended regularly by him. Understood? So it depends upon the number of subjects and objects. When you change them, their places, we have to be very careful about the use of is and are. Okay. Now see here. Another example in active voice is she gave me a pen. She gave me a pen. What is the subject here? She. What is the object? What is the verb? Action of giving, gave. So we have two objects here. One is me and another is pain. So when we keep the question what after the verb, then we will get the direct object. What did she give? Pain, a pain. Okay, so a pain is the direct object here. Actually, pain is the actual object here because it is the actual noun. But we will take a pain as the object here. Okay, so this is a pain is the direct object. Now we have to change this direct object into subject in passive voice. A pain was given to me by her. So her is the object here. So which was subject she here. So when we change the pronoun she into object, it becomes her. Okay. So before, as I explained you, that before the object in passive voice, we put the preposition by. So we have done here. Okay. Now we have to change the form of main verb. So this sentence is in simple past tense. This sentence is in simple past tense. So in case of simple past tense, when we change the sentences in simple past tense into passive voice, we have to make the use of to be verbs, was and were. Okay, like here, a pen was given to me by her. So now we have to change this main verb into B3 form. Okay, this sentence is in simple past tense, so we have gave B2 form of the verb. Now we are changing this B2 form into B3 in passive voice. Okay, so B3 of give is given. This is passive voice. This requirement is also fulfilled. Now what is the another requirement is the use of to be verbs before the B3 form of the verb. So this sentence is in simple past tense. So when we change the sentences in active voice in the simple past tense into passive voice, we have to make use of either was or were. So we have used was here. Why? Because the subject pen is singular here. So was. So now if the sentences in active voice would be in plural with plural object, like she gave me pains. अगर pains होता यहाँ पर तो pains is plural. So now if we change this sentence in passive voice, so pains यहाँ पर क्या होता? Pains. So we have plural. So we would have pains were given to me by her. Okay. So now in case of pronouns, when we use pronouns as the subjects, then he changes to him, she changes to her. Okay, it will change always to it only. Now they will change into them. Okay, I changes to me. Okay, I changes to me. Okay, now we changes to us. So I hope you have understood this basic concept regarding how to change sentences in active voice into passive voice. In our next video, we will understand the structure of sentences in different tenses and how to change those sentences in different tenses into passive voice. Okay, so I would like to stop here for today's class. Thank you so much, students, for being the part of my today's class. If you have any kind of doubts, kindly clear your concept during the class period only. Okay, students, thank you so much.